Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. I have a presentation today a little bit different than some of the others, and I have a lot of slides. So I'm going to do my best to stick to a script, which I'm very bad at doing, but I'm going to try. So it's great to be here. This is the first time I've been to an Access conference. And today I'd like to introduce how a studio in the Webster Library at Concordia University supports a broad range of research and pedagogical activities. I'm going to introduce the studio, take a look at the technology, and then talk about the services and some of the ways that we support those. And our experience with this space has been that supporting access to these types of technologies requires a high level of tailored support and collaboration, and a kind of a collaborative approach, if you will, to working with faculty and students. So for some brief context, Concordia University Library serves a student population of 45,000. Of this, approximately 35,000 students are undergrads and 10,000 are grad students. The community is served by 42 librarians and professionals from different specializations, of which I am one. So disclaimer, I'm not a librarian. Let's continue. So the Visualization Studio launched in 2018, and I was hired shortly thereafter to manage the space and kind of build up services around it. Since that time, the studio has evolved into a facility that allows users from many different faculties and departments to leverage interactive and immersive technologies for a broad range of teaching, learning, and research activities. The technology alone is not enough, because the fear factor preventing many potential users from working with these types of technologies is kind of a big thing. So that's why I've been available to work closely and support activities in the space, bring users in, and kind of really work on at the level of the project, even providing scholarship and curriculum support. The types of activities in this space are really all over the map. We serve the entire Concordia community. We have a lot of different students and a lot of different faculties doing different types of activities. And the space certainly doesn't tailor to one type of activity. There are classes, workshops, they're all up there, many different types of things, even performative work. You see a photograph of that in the background. So for the technology, without reading all of the details of the specs, it's a really big display wall, a high resolution, large format wall. There are two audio systems, one that the studio was built with, which is a mono system, and then an immersive system, which is comprised of 27 speakers. There are a number of high performance computers, a bunch of device inputs so that you can create different user layouts on the wall, and then some other gear, including a synthesizer and some other VR gear and equipment. So for the I guess I forgot to run the animation. Sorry, there it is in the background. But we'll see some pictures of the studio coming up. And there's a range of software available to studio users, but we're always playing with this list and changing it. From semester to semester, different activities happen. And because we're working closely with users, we get to see what people are doing, what they want to do, what they're trying to do. So if we can install something to help with a project, we do. And just to briefly talk about the two different audio systems in the room, there's an original mono system and an immersive system. The immersive system, basically, there is a ring of speakers that are below the wall, one that are one ring of speakers above the wall, and some speakers in the ceiling and a subwoofer. This system was added after the room was built, so it took a bit of design work to figure out how to put that many speakers in a room that's already kind of designed and finished. So in terms of basic access in our service model, users can fill out a form to request a consultation to begin working in the space. And after this is completed, users can access a booking calendar, which is in LibCal. And there are no hard, fast rules around what types of bookings can be made, like in terms of time durations. If bookings requests are far in the future, we'll make those on behalf of studio users. Okay, so we're going to talk a bit about how the room is set up to kind of facilitate work. Here you see a basic user interface that we modified and we designed specifically to make it more easy for users to route sources from device inputs, from the computers that are in the room to the wall for video layouts. and to create routings from the devices that are plugged into the system to the mono audio system. The immersive audio system is not on this interface. We also have some lighting control and a way to basically save some layouts. So if you want to fast switch between different layouts, you can. And we have some approaches to working with large format video. These are approaches that we teach. Some users may want to work in their own software applications, but we can also help using web-based tools like Miro, software like Adobe Premiere. If you want to do large format video, the wall is basically 3 times 16 by 9, so it's 48 by 9 or 16 by 3. And on the previous slide, I think it showed that it was around 9.2 by 1.7 meters in size. So developing content for that requires a little bit of custom work. So we have these applications that we use to support helping users create media for the wall. For the immersive audio system, what we've done is, it's a sound card with a lot of speakers connected to a powerful Windows 10 PC. So if users want to use their own software, they can, but in terms of making the software accessible, what we've done is create workflows using software like Reaper, which is a audio workstation software, and Spat Revolution for doing immersive sound. And we have templates that users can open to get set up. So they'll open a template, save it in their folder, and begin building their project. So this makes it really easy for non-technical users to start integrating the use of immersive sound, which is like when you first look at it, kind of scary. So this makes it easy. Users bring in their audio files and we get them set up. We also have some volumetric capture equipment, some Azure Connect cameras, and some older Xbox Connects. Here's a residency that was happening this semester, actually, by Dr. Shona Jansen, but I won't read all the details because I'll run out of time. So the studio activities that we're going to look at, I don't know where my time, here's my time. Okay, 10 minutes in. So here's some activities that we're going to look at now, and I'll try to slow down a little bit so that we can look at the pictures. But these are activities that have happened in the background. So a weekly theater class, a visual design workshop, a weekly history class, an English seminar, an immersive listening session for an Irish studies class, and some graduate projects, and undergraduate and 2 grad projects. These are the projects we're going to check out now. And before getting into that, just to talk a bit about project support. So after the initial consultation that we give to users, I'm available to teach users how to work with the studio technologies, as I mentioned before. But I can come into classes, I can teach sessions for classes, or if it's built into the curriculum, I'm going to come in and help with a project setup for students, and I'm available for student support as well. And also this work that we do closely with studio users, with faculty and students, helps us kind of see what people are trying to do in the studio, what they're doing. If they want to work on, there was one grad student, we're going to look at their project in the sec that was working with AI, and we didn't have a computer that had a powerful enough GPU to do that. So we bought a machine. So we're able to kind of think about what can we do, what can't we do, and how can we modify the room to make it more capable. So this is Professor Mark Sussman teaching his theater class. Up on the wall, you can see Reaper and Spat Revolution. This was one of the student projects that was in the curriculum for building an immersive sound piece. And, having these technologies in the library is fantastic because you can't put these technologies in every single faculty. It's just not, they're too expensive and they're too difficult to run. And in our library, we have one space, right? So it's a space that has to be really adaptable to different projects. We don't have resources to have many different spaces for different types of activities. So you can see in the ceiling, there's also a technical grid. So there are projects that can be staged. Here are some of the student projects that were happening in the studio. Kind of one looks like a seance, it's not, but they were doing some real-time video. And in conjunction with having some media in the wall, you can see some volumetric capture happening in one of the photos on the right, in the middle. So this is a visual communication class run by a physics professor. Different kind of class, different kind of layout. You can see we've got tables in there rather than just the regular bean bags. And what I was working on was helping students figure out how in their physics disciplines to communicate their research to a wider audience. And so we were working on some visual layout using a range of different tools. Just to show a different approach to visual layout, this is an earlier class by a history professor, Dr. VK Preston. VK taught in the class and also used the wall to think about ways of laying out information in nonlinear ways. So rather than being forced through this sort of slideshow or linear format, creating visual layouts that had tons of media. And here's another example of a layout. So just different ways to kind of communicate and use these technologies for teaching. This is an immersive gaming class that took place. Dr. Darren Werschler actually taught an English class in Minecraft. This is an idea that came about during the pandemic, and Darren basically developed this idea, and then after the pandemic, decided, well, why not do this in the studio, because it was pretty awesome. And yeah, just to mention that all the activities that take place in this room are not, we don't like create the ideas. The users come in with the ideas and we facilitate them. This is an immersive listening session. Dr. Katie Young teaches in the Irish Studies Department. Katie reached out to me and said, I'm going to Ireland. I want to record some sound walks. She actually did this with like a handheld ambisonic microphone, a Zoom microphone, and a camera, and did these sound walks that must have been pretty painstaking holding that equipment, but then came back to Montreal, and we basically used the immersive audio system to decode the sound walks. So what she did was set up an activity for the students that brought context to the class, because it's of course easier to do that. It is easier to do that than to bring that number of students to Ireland, or maybe it's less expensive. This is a graduate research project that was Florence Badin-Baudry. This was an Indie Masters program, a project in the Indie Masters program. And you can see that it's possible to set up kind of staged installations in the space as well. So Florence set up 2 projectors and also created an immersive sound component to the project, which we worked together to do. Just something to mention quickly is that there is a way to create an immersive audio piece for this room, but then to create a binaural decoding of that piece, which is basically a format that you can listen to in stereo headphones. So you can create something in this room in terms of immersive sound, but also put it on a website and make it available after the fact, which is pretty great. This is a postdoc, Tim Murray Brown, who's been working in the studio a couple of times. This project is really interesting. You know, students bring AI projects into the studio and work on them. This was actually the project that our computer couldn't run his project, so he brought his own computer in. And then we eventually upgraded some of our gear to be able to facilitate this kind of work. I'd love to tell you all about this, but I won't. But maybe if somebody wants to ask me about it, it was a pretty cool project. It was about basically an exploration into working with AI systems to create a creative project, but then the project in a way looks at the agency between, okay, who's done what in this project? Where's my authorship? Where's the AI system's authorship? So a lot of the questions that we're thinking about and asking are kind of also coming up in terms of student projects and work. And here's an undergraduate project. This was done on an application called Touch Designer. Another project that was working using AI to think about surveillance. And this project was called Of Panoptic. So that's basically it. I managed to get through all my slides without running out of time. Yeah, we're always kind of trying to work on feedback, getting a lot of feedback from users, asking questions about the technology and how we might change or steer it. You know, the technology is getting old now, so we have to think about how to upgrade it. But we really do take the kind of user feedback seriously in terms of how to run the service. So if users need something different, we'll certainly think about maybe setting things up in a different way to facilitate that. But yeah, that's it. Thanks.
So much. I love your slides with all the motion. It felt very vivid. Yes. Sorry, we'll take audience questions now. That's really interesting. It's really interesting to see the curriculum support and integration. So I was curious when you set it up, was it was it like you built it and then they came? Or was it that you already sort of had seen that there's this need, I guess you could say, on campus and then?
For the studio or for the types of services that?
I guess for the studio originally. And then.
Well, I think for the studio originally, so our UL at the time, Guylaine Baudry, this was part of the library's renovation. So the studio was built, and we've seen a lot of studios like this built in university libraries. Obviously a lot of consulting was done when the room was built, and it was branded as a visualization studio. So that kind of indicated what it was sort of set up for in the beginning. But there wasn't really a necessarily clear idea as to what kind of activities would happen in this space or how it would develop. And that's where I was kind of brought in. My background is in media art and design, and before that, audiovisual systems integration. So I kind of brought my experiences into the space. I'd been a student at Concordia for a number of years before starting to work at Concordia. So I knew a lot of people in the arts faculty. So I did a lot of outreach and brought people in. And, in the beginning, undergrads weren't allowed in the space. We opened that up. In the beginning, there weren't classes taking place in the space. We kind of started that up. So we've kind of tried different things and have seen sort of what works. So I don't think it's build it and they will come. It's build it and then invite them and invite them and invite them and see what they're doing. And some libraries put these types of spaces in the science library, for example, thinking, well, it's, that makes sense. But it's the arts disciplines that are more interested in exploring and experimenting with these types of technologies. And what we're seeing is that sort of research and that kind of creative approach to trying things out, like a theater class, is kind of filtering into the STEM fields. We're slowly seeing more students from this and faculty members from the STEM fields coming in. We're going to have a bunch of engineering students do a gaming night every month coming up. So I think it's sort of like I'm kind of taking a real design approach to it, like an iterative approach, like try this, try that, what works. But I think that I don't necessarily think a space like this, build it and they will come, would necessarily work. Because it just requires so much hand-holding, really, to get people to feel safe enough to try something beyond, what's their sort of regular practice in terms of the ways that they teach.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any questions for me? Yes. Would you ever use it as an exhibition space?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, some of the stuff often, obviously the nature of a space like that and the design and layout, it takes a bit of custom work to build material and media or a class or whatever for the space. So often what we have done in the past is students would come in, create projects, and then exhibit their projects. And whether it would be internally for a crit, or for a thesis defense, or if they wanted to have like doors open, invite people to come and see their project. We haven't done that as much recently for some reason, but that's something that we were doing before. But yeah, exhibits for sure. For sure.